Jacob, it is March 28th, 328. Do those numbers mean anything to you? Would come to mind?
It sounds a lot like the legendary Matt Ryan meltdown to me, but I could be wrong.
No, that's what it sounds like to me. Patriots coming back in the Super Bowl, the special day of my life right there. And also the day that the Falcons dynasty franchise could have gone way up, but it completely crashed and has been terrible since that season.
Now that I think about it, that marks the second time that the Patriots have ruined a franchise whose nickname is a bird in the Super Bowl.
Can you tell me the second one, Jacob?
I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I'll think about it during the show.
Okay, well, fair enough. Could you come back to me on that? But welcome, boys and girls, to the Loan Brothers podcast, where today we have some NBA and some March Madness. NBA, we're going to talk about the Lakers. And today, since we're talking about the Lakers, we brought in a really good friend of mine, best friend from back in high school, Weston Martell. He's been a great friend of mine for a long time. Very passionate about the Lakers. I'm sure Jake and I have rambled about our opinions. Weston watches a lot of Lakers games, and he has a lot better idea than us. So we're going to bring him in, get his opinion, talk about some college basketball, and we'll roll from there. But Weston, if you want to introduce yourself to the people, that would be great.
Yes, I am the Lakers connoisseur that they are bringing on. It's been painful. But first, my name's Weston. You can call me Swagless. You two are the ones that created that. I'm positive, right?
I think it was more Jake Gilbert than myself, but
because it was Swaggy M at first, and then went to Swagless. So we'll roll with that.
I think Jakey G called it like Swaggy M or Swaggy P, and then I just went to Swagless straight from there.
It started from I think it was Jake was probably a senior. I think I was an 8th grader, and we were in open gym that time, and I was like going off for no reason. And I was putting like an M by where my belt would be. And then that's where he created Swaggy M. Then it just went to Swagless, so you can call me whatever you want. I don't care. But I've known these two we've actually known each other for a long time. Like
we used to play catch in your backyard when Dad lived by the baseball diamonds.
I remember shooting airsoft guns at you.
Oh yeah. So we've known each other for a long time, but we really got close. It was kind of random with you and I, Jared. Like it was I think your senior year is when we really got close or started to know each other better. And then it's just been, you've been one of my best friends since then. But, I am 20. I live in Minot. Don't know what I'm doing with my life currently, but we're figuring it out. So, yeah, that's really all there is to know about me. Huge Lakers fan, depressed Vikings fan, and that's about it.
Well, depressed Vikings fan, you're probably a depressed Lakers fan as well right now, I about assume.
Oh yeah, I'm beat to the core. I'm more depressed about them than the Vikings, to be honest with you.
You have the right to be. At least people expect the Vikings to be disappointing.
That's what it is. It's all about where you're measured.
Perspective and expectations.
There you go. Perspective and expectation too. When you look, are we going to jump right into the Lakers?
We sure can, but before we have you always been a Lakers fan, or
no?
Or you are you just a LeBron guy?
So I'm a LeBron mega fan, and why I don't know. I always say Kobe was the guy that got me into basketball, because everyone knew Kobe. I would play 2K and always pick the Lakers, but whenever I started watching basketball, it was LeBron. Why I don't know. It was probably play style, or maybe there's a specific moment that I can't draw off the top of my head, but it was weird. It was a phase in my life where I was really starting to like basketball is when I started loving LeBron. And that was probably his last year in Cleveland and then translating to Miami. When he went there, it was definitely that's who I'm going to root for. I'm a Miami fan. I thought he was there for life. And then I followed very hard, and he goes back to Cleveland. And then that's when I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll be a Cleveland fan because I was just a super LeBron fan. And then he goes to the Lakers, and it's okay, now I'm a Lakers fan. So I think forever I'll just be a Lakers fan because, it's one of the biggest franchises in the world. It's got very long, deep, and rich history in basketball. So, if LeBron goes back to Cleveland, I'll root for them to win, but I'll probably just settle down on the Lakers, or maybe there will be another player that comes up where I'll be like, hey, I want to follow that guy around. We'll see. I really am a guy, I like rooting for players. I'm a Vikings fan, but this next season, 2022, 2023, I'm a Bucks fan. I need to see Brady get one more, as if we haven't seen enough. So,
attaboy.
but yeah, to answer your question, no, I've not always been a Lakers fan. I really could care less about them, but I am a Lakers fan for the time being, as long as he's there.
All right. Well, that is good to know. Well, you're a bigger Lakers fan than we'll ever be, so I guess that makes you our resident expert. So tell us why the Lakers have struggled so much this year.
You know, it's not as like I don't hear people talk about this enough, and maybe I'm in my own world here, but when you look at like great teams that win championships, and not just basketball but professional sports, or you look at, I don't know what we can say, boxers or UFC fighters, whatever it may be, champions all have one thing. They have many things, but it's one thing for me, and they have an identity. When you look at the team, the Lakers that won a couple years back, they had an identity, and it was two specific things. They were great at defense, and they played in transition. And you could look at you could look at football teams, if they're great offensively or they're great defensively, whatever they hang their hat on, usually is what leads them to being great. And when I look at the Lakers this year, and you could even say last year a little bit, but when I look at them this year, there's like no identity whatsoever. Like offensively, they're horrible.
Their identity is being old.
And that's kind of what it is. That's what it falls back on. But for some reason, they've not found like one thing they're good at. It's one night they're good at this, the next night they're good at that, but there's always some bad in between. So like, they can't play in transition. They can't move the ball up and down the court, and they can't get back in transition. And that falls right on what you just said. They're old. And defensively, they cannot guard anything. And defense, in my mind, is all effort. I mean, yeah, some guys maybe have more athletic ability and have more drive, and that's why they're a good defender. But in my opinion, it's effort. And when I watch these games, it's zero effort. And it's not just the bench players. It's LeBron. It's AD when he's out there. AD is a great defender, but it seems like he has not, when he's played this year, which seems like I've seen a dinosaur more recently than I've seen AD play. But it seems like no one is giving any effort, which is like one of my like main problems with them, is like there's something going on there that is not like they're very deflated, and it seems like they've been deflated since, I would say, after like a quarter, like the first quarter of the year, like from then to now, they're just like deflated mentally. I think it had to do with the trade deadline. Like there's just something weird going on there that like I have not been able to figure out, and now it's even more obvious and it's worse.
Can I ask you a question here, Swagos?
You can, yeah.
Okay, so we talk about Jacob making the joke that they're old. Like, they are old. I mean, you talked about a lot of things in there. And I've talked about this in our podcast before. Do you think they could have a better identity, or if they had just even like one young superstar? I've said this to Jacob many times. They have the experience there, but LeBron, he's good. Very good. Best player probably still in the world, at least up there. That LeBron can't carry anymore. I think he needs a young superstar that can carry him, just like Kyrie in Cleveland. I know LeBron was a big guy. I feel like Kyrie was more of the star, and LeBron's more of a kind of more support, but easily still the best player on the team. Like, do you think that's what the Lakers need? Is just like some young superstar to, take over, so LeBron can not try to take all the load on him?
Unfortunately, that's what they brought AD for. Because people forget. I was texting a friend last night. Let me read you what I sent to him. I was so pissed. I did not watch last night's game because we were driving home from Rolla, and we were scrambling, settling in at home. So we didn't get home till pretty late. And I was keeping up with the game like score-wise, but I wasn't watching it. And I texted him. I said, I said, this is exaggerated because I was very mad. So like right now, maybe I wouldn't quite agree with this, but I told him, the Lakers should contemplate trading AD this summer. He's such a bum, LMAO. They gave so much up for him to be the top 5 player that he was, and he's turned into somewhat of a snowflake.
I don't think a word of that text is wrong.
I would agree 100%.
like when I mean, I'm not saying that I disagree with what I said. I was very pissed off, I'm not going to lie. But it's like they brought him on to be the top 5 talent that he is. And when they won the chip, he was that.
I think he was the best player on that team. I mean, I'm not saying he got robbed, but I kind of think he might have deserved the Finals MVP that year just for his whole playoff performance. But
yeah,
well, but injuries, that's his big thing though. He's been injured for all this time.
I've tried to figure it out. Like how does he keep getting injured? What is it? And I honestly think part of it's his play style. Like I think he tries to play like Kevin Durant when he's not. I'm not saying he needs to be Tim Duncan, but it doesn't seem like his existence down low is anywhere near what it was when he was in New Orleans. When he was in New Orleans, he could stretch it out and he could play down low, and he was pretty good down low. He doesn't need to be Shaq or Tim Duncan, but it's just like it seems like now he only wants to stretch it out, and I feel like that has to do with his injury proneness that he's developed. But it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating knowing that guy's on the team and they've been playing the way they have for the last couple months. Like, obviously because he's not there, but it just sucks. It drives me nuts.
As it should.
So I'd be frustrated too if I were you. But I understand everything you're saying there. Like I said, I don't watch Lakers as much as you have. We watched that one game when LeBron scored 50 points, and man, you were just freaking out the whole game when LeBron was just heat checking himself and just cashing these threes. But Lakers have struggled so much this season, and it seems like they might have a good couple 5 games, and then they have a really bad 5 games. Good 5 games, bad 5 games.
Well, lately it hasn't even been a good game. They have not even played like a good, like they've had a couple wins, but they have not been great wins. Like, I don't remember the last time I watched them and was like, yes, they are on track. It's like when they win, it's just by the skin of their teeth, and it's like, oh, there's a win. I'm more surprised when they win right now than when they lose.
Yeah. So with you saying that, I mean, so like the season's coming to the end here. I mean, to you, what's a good result, or what would be considered a success at the end of the season for the Lakers? Is it? I mean, clearly you want to think championship, but right now you can't be thinking that's on the table right now. I mean, maybe you can with the players you have LeBron on your team, but like, what would be considered a success, and maybe what would be a huge disappointment for the Lakers at this point in the season?
So, I think there's 2 things you need to look at, and I don't know that I have the correct answer for you. If AD comes back and they're completely healthy, I don't care who you are. You do not want to play them first round. If they get into, not only do they have to get into the play-in, win the play-in, and get the 8 seed. If I'm any team, I don't want to see them first round. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to make a deep playoff run, but that is not, a healthy AD and Braun is not who I want to see. I'm taking bias out of it. Those 2 alone healthy is a scary matchup for any team. So if he were to come back and get healthy, you make a quick run and see if you can close out the season. So that's one thing. That would be one positive, to make the play-in. Whether you win it or not, make the play-in, try to squeak in the 8 seed, and make a little bit of a run. But what I really want to see is these last, what do we have, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, games. If I'm the Lakers, I'm looking at who are we going to try to bring on for next year. Of these young guys we've signed, Stanley Johnson's one guy. He's not the greatest player in the world. He's not talented. He's not the steal for them that they got, but he gives effort on defense, and he does what he's supposed to do on offense. He doesn't try to force things. He's a very nice player. It's guys like him, Wenyan Gabriel, or however you pronounce his name. Another guy that maybe you give him more looks, see what he can do. Is he someone worth bringing back? So I think if you can get an understanding of what you have versus what you want to have next year and who you want to bring back, I think that's what they need to try to do. Look ahead. What are we going to do for next year with the guys that we have? And if you get a couple wins and you don't make the play-in, so be it. But give yourself an idea of what you have going into next year, because I think it's obvious they need to do something for next year. This did not work, and I don't think it's going to work. And not that it can't work, but I don't think anyone wants it to work with Russ, Braun, and AD as the core.
West Brick. Best
West
nickname in
Brick.
sports.
Like going on like a Westbrook tangent, like I've always been like a fan of his game, and like I think he does bring. I've seen some people saying like he doesn't give as much effort as you think. Like I think that's wrong. I think he does give 100%.
I love that dude. Like he might be one of my favorite players in the NBA, but like things he cannot be a star player on a championship team. I think he needs to accept a role. And I told Jacob this as like a 6-man, or as like with a secondary group on any team in the NBA. He cannot be the main man or even like the second player on a championship team. That's my thing about him.
Like where I was going with that is like I feel bad for him, because when he came in, the expectation was championship, and like there's people saying they're a favorite with the Nets or whatever. But I don't think like their problems are based around him. Like I don't think he's the problem. I think what they did to get him was the problem. Like they broke up something that wasn't completely broken. Like I'll even go off on this. If AD doesn't go down last year, they're beating the Suns. I don't care what anyone says. They are beating the Suns. They were up 2-1. Okay. with a lead and AD goes down, and there's just nothing to fall back on. Now, I don't think the Suns are overrated. I think the Suns are great. Like now, if they match up with the Suns, it's going to be a much bigger problem than it was last year because of the experience.
Jacob, it's funny. Did we not argue this about like a couple episodes ago?
No, the Suns would have won that series. They were the best team last year.
I'm not going to say they're going to 4-1 them. I think the Lakers are winning that.
Well, that's why I'm glad, Weston, you said earlier when you just said like they're going to be a problem for the first round player, the first round team. He said, I'm not. He's like, you're just saying, I'm not saying they're going to win. At first, I thought you were going to say they're going to be a problem. They're going to win because I'm not going to lie. If right now they're the 10 seed, actually fighting with the Spurs, Jacob, for that last spot.
The Spurs are only one game back, and the Spurs subreddit is pissed that we're playing too good because they want to tank for a top pick. Mike, are you guys crazy? I would love nothing more than to knock out the Lakers and to lose in the first round and still get a top 10 pick.
Well, here's the thing, Jacob. The Lakers last games.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing. They have the Mavericks, the Jazz. They play the Nuggets twice.
Jeez.
The Suns and the Warriors. After that, they play the Pelicans, who's a hot team. They have a tough end of the year here to fit. And the Thunder. They play the Thunder, who's they're a young team. The Thunder have beaten them how many times this year, coming back, and like they dropped that crazy game against them this year. Like they have a tough schedule, and I was looking at the Spurs.
The
schedule.
Spurs are hot, and their schedule's easy down the stretch. They're about to beat the Rockets today.
So they're about to be. They play the Grizzlies, who John Morant, but they play the Trailblazers twice. They do play some good teams, but like the same teams, the Warriors, Mavericks, but like the Lakers stretch, it gets tough. But I can't ever bet against LeBron. I mean, it's almost like you never bet against Tom Brady's a thing.
I mean, like I said, like I think those healthy AD and Braun with just a decent supporting cast just do their roles. That is not a team. If I'm the Suns or I'm the Grizzlies or whoever it is, that's not a team that I want to play. I'm not saying that's a team you're scared of or they're gonna win or take it to Game 7. That's just not a team with the potential that those two bring. That's not a team that I want to play in a 7-game series. I know LeBron's not what he used to be, this and that. He can't. I mean, I'll admit it. He cannot carry the way he used to, especially on defense. He's a great defender when he wants to be, but most of the time he does not want to be.
Well, I see. I know LeBron's high on social media, but I see so many videos of LeBron of these videos, especially Barstool Sports, like calling out all the time. There's like, look at LeBron walking up and down the court, like doing nothing. But
yeah,
I mean, what's in like? Just tell me what round. What would be considered? Just one word. You don't have to explain. What would be considered success for the Lakers? Getting out of the play-in, winning the first round, second round. What would be considered a good? Like at this point in the season, what would be considered a good season for him? Just tell me like what round of the playoffs or making the playoffs. Maybe that's a win for him.
I think just getting into the playoffs is a win.
Okay.
Because right now, I think I read they have a 44% chance, which had they won last night, I'm sure that would have been much better. I think if you just make the playoffs and just give yourself a chance, because Russ said it a couple months ago, and I think he got clowned for it. Like I saw some good memes, but he's not wrong. When you get to the playoffs, it's 0-0. Once you're in, and my thing has always been too, like, obviously you always want the 1 seed, you want that, this and that. To win it, you got to beat everybody. So if they get in as the 8 seed and they just make a series out of it and don't get swept, hang your hat, go on to next season and try to improve. I mean, the season's in my mind's been a ginormous failure. It's just now you have to make it not as big of a failure. Just end it on a high note.
Well, right now for the 9-10 seeds, basically between the Pelicans, Lakers, and Spurs. So whoever ends the season the hottest in the last 6-7 games here will probably get in the playoffs. And whoever's coldest will lose. But I mean, you look into next season, you just say tip your hat next season. I mean, what off-season moves do you think the Lakers should do? I mean, you could say sign somebody. I mean, I'm more or less. I'm not saying sign anybody. Do you think this offseason they should trade Westbrook? They should trade AD? And honestly, we'll get to the big question in this offseason. Jacob, I know you wanted to ask him this question too, but what should they do with LeBron? I mean, LeBron, he's always been kind of jumping around. He said earlier this season he wouldn't say no to return to Cleveland. They have a young core in Cleveland. Like, would you blame him for going there? I think he has one more season under contract with the Lakers, but what do you think they should do? What do you think they should do this offseason? Just the Lakers itself, and then get into like maybe what you think the Lakers should do with LeBron. They should sign him and extend him, or whatever you think about that.
I definitely think that you look at how you can move Russ Obviously, his trade value is as low as it has ever been.
Wait,
But-
can I stop you? Can I stop you there, Jacob? Can you tell us all why Russ's trade value is very low?
Because he stinks.
What else?
And
What else,
he's too
Jacob?
expensive.
There you go. He's too expensive.
He's
I
bad.
think that's
He's
a
a lot
very
of money.
fair point.
A lot of money for, well, like I said, who I think should just be a great secondary player for the secondary team. Jacob, I just wanted to say, because I know how you feel about Russell Westbrook. I just wanted to hear you say he's too expensive. That's all I want to hear.
Look,
All right.
listen, I don't want to say he stinks, but if you're playing in the NBA and teams aren't guarding you when you're at the elbow, that's a problem. That means you stink. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, I feel for Russ. I feel like it is a ginormous. He's never been like a phenomenal shooter or even a great shooter, or you could probably even say a good shooter. But I feel like his confidence this season has just been at an all-time low that, like, I can't think of the last time you've seen this. Like, it's bad. Like, when I watch, like, he can't make like layups. Like, he struggles around the rim, like just basic. I'm not saying basic, but just finishing. So I just feel like his confidence is at such an all-time low. Like, I feel for him, and what you said was right on the nail. For what he's being paid, he is awful. Now, he's not a bad player. He's a great NBA player. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He's a top. I'm not going to say a top what. He's a top point guard ever. I mean, he's not top 5. Don't think I'm saying that, but like, he's a great all-time talent. But what he's being paid right now, he is awful. So if you're the Lakers, you have to look at how can you move him, who's willing to take on that contract, and where can you improve, but where the other team's gonna have to say, what are we gonna gain from bringing in Russ? That is a very big problem, because I don't know many spots where he goes and they get better.
I mean, that's the thing. Russ has been on what, 4 different teams in 4 years. I mean, he was with the Thunder, then the Rockets, and the Wizards, now the Lakers. They're probably in the 5th year here where he gets moved again. And it doesn't work. I feel like teams are starting to think like Russ. I feel like he could be a good player on a very bad team. I feel like a very bad team, he would help out a lot. But he can't go to a championship team and make it better. He can't. But
yeah, I mean, I think he can go to a bad team and make them much better than he can go to a championship team and make them better. I don't think that he makes the championship team much better.
Oh, for sure.
I think
he can make a
only
horrible
player
team.
in the whole league that Russell Westbrook actually worked with was Kevin Durant, and it was a shame to see them split.
Oh, it'd be cool to see. I mean, I know James Harden was there, but it'd be cool to see that group of 3 join back up together. But, well, besides Russell Westbrook, because I think all 3 of us agree the Lakers need to get rid of Russell Westbrook. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what team wants to take on his contract for what he's worth. But,
Yeah.
I mean, and the big question is, you talked about AD. And do you think, because I told Jacob this a couple episodes ago, and Jay, I think you about said the same thing. I almost feel like they should get rid of AD too. I feel like they could. Honestly, I feel like the Cavs that one year in midseason, they traded about everybody and like changed their whole roster, and they ended up winning a championship that year and came back 3-1 against the Warriors. Like, I feel like LeBron is the one that makes that team whole, and I feel like they need to trade. They need to trade Russ. They need to trade Anthony Davis. I'm not gonna lie. Get rid of Carmelo Anthony too. Get rid of all those old stars. Get some young talent that around LeBron, and that's gonna be a team.
I don't disagree with the thought of trading him. Like, I don't think you throw that out the window and say no. I also think you need to look at like what you are giving up, because AD, when healthy, is a top 5 talent. So it's like, what can you go out and get for him to make it worth it in return? I don't know that. I do think like it's something that the Lakers really need to think about, but it's very tough.
And I will stop you there. You say top 5 talent. I'm saying top 5 talent 2 years ago, like the bubble year.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the last year AD was a top 5 player. Since then, he's just been injured, and
yeah,
it just seems like when he's out there, he doesn't contribute as much as he used to. I feel like he just kind of past his prime. He's kind of slowing down because of injuries.
Getting to take 3 months off for COVID that year was a gift. I think that kept him healthy. I think that kept LeBron healthy, because LeBron can't stay healthy anymore either. People got to remember that.
Yeah, I mean, You're not wrong. I think he's the most durable player ever, but when you hit 35 years old, it is very hard, I'm sure, to stay healthy.
Especially in a game like basketball, where for 80 games you're bound to sprain your ankle once or twice a year. I mean, it's just going to happen.
It's not like football. Not to debate that, but basketball, you're up and down every possession, nonstop. Football, you're playing in increments, and you're only playing half the game. Not half the game, but you're playing half the side of the ball. So I mean, basketball is similar to like a soccer, where I feel like it's so up and down that you put so many more miles on than a lot of other sports.
You do. I mean, injuries are more severe in football, but basketball, I think of any sport, actually has the most injuries. Just, ankle sprains, out for a week, stupid stuff like hip soreness. Because, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, especially in the NBA, when you're playing 80 games in a 5-month time span, and you're playing, back-to-backs, and you're playing 40, and players like LeBron and Embiid and Giannis are probably playing 38 to 40 minutes a night.
I'm pretty sure Bron's top 3 in minutes. I'm not wrong.
I'm actually, LeBron he might be top. He's getting 37 minutes a game, which is 4 or 5 more than Giannis and Embiid are getting.
Jacob, I'm just saying, I'm going to take my degree into account here. When you said basketball usually probably counts for the most injuries, you are correct. I learned that in my prevention of sports injuries class. So
it's just so much. I mean, like I said, it's so much. It's stopping and starting, and you're jumping literally every single possession. And there's a lot of cutting, and there's a lot of direction changes. Like I said, I mean, and football is very dynamic and it's very fast, and that's why the injuries are more severe. You get way more ACL tears, I think, and stuff like that, and concussions. But like,
and the popular fact is that basketball does cause the most injuries, like overall, but as a young age for teens, football does actually. Because at a young age, at teens, and at a young age, people don't know how to tackle right. They lower their head.
Aside from that,
your
young
cleats just aren't
basketball is
as
not
good.
fast paced.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying at a young age, football. But yeah, if you look at the overall concept, basketball does. But sorry to interrupt you. I just had to throw. I rarely get to throw my degree out there, so I had to use it in this.
I'll find a way to work in accounting during one of these podcasts then, so I can flash it.
Yeah, I mean, back to like what we were talking about. It's like, I guess with the whole LeBron thing, saying 80 thing, staying healthy. It's so tough. It's really hard to gauge where they are at or where they could be at next year when you have not. I mean, you didn't get it like even last season. Like they had so much injury last season. Like obviously when they were going to beat the Suns or whatever. But like there was just no like continuity whatsoever, and that's why I absolutely hated breaking up the band that they had last year, moving Caruso, KCP, Kuzma. Obviously, you had Montrezl Harrell, you had Dennis Schroeder. Like if you could have brought those pieces into this year, who knows? We could be talking about them as the 1 seed. I'm not saying we are or would have, but like you lose all those pieces, and I feel like with basketball, it's so much continuity and like in repetition and minutes together. And you bring in a whole new group, and you expect them to play an hour-long show. Well, when the band only got to rehearse for 5 minutes, it's very hard for them to all be on the same page. And that's where I'm at with the Lakers. They have gotten absolutely no opportunity together to form a group and a core that sticks. So when you bring in Russ, a very unique player, especially from what they've had in the last couple of years, they have not had that third guy that's a star. It's very tricky, and that's why I hated the move when they got rid of Russ. I was somewhat excited because I'm like, oh, I guess it's a big 3, and you would think they'd make it work. But so it's very interesting. What can they do moving forward? I don't know. Do you break up the band again and just completely get rid of everyone? I don't know.
Yes.
That's the answer.
That is the answer. You can't tell me that bringing the same group of people next year is going to be the
end.
I'm not saying.
If this team was healthy, I'm going to make you mad. If this team was healthy, they'd be like a 6 seed. I honestly don't know if they win that many more games.
I'm not saying they don't get rid of everybody. I'm more looking at like, do you get rid of AD? Do you get rid of AD? Obviously, we all agree get rid of Russ.
Hear me out. But trade all of them. Trade LeBron. Trade AD. Start over. That franchise doesn't have any hope.
Okay, and honestly, Weston, you can argue Jacob here. That's our next point. I think this last topic we'll talk about the Lakers, and then we'll move on. Is what do you think the Lakers should do? I mean, we talked about Russ, AD. We talked about what a successful season is, why they're being bad, why they're not being successful this season. What do you think they should do with LeBron? Because I feel like Jacob and I both have our own opinions about this, about what they should do with him. and the thing about it is his son's gonna be in the NBA in 2-3 years, and he said he wants to finish his last year off with them, and he's talked about he's not saying no to a reunion with the Cavs. I mean, what do you think the Cavs? I mean, it'd be the craziest thing ever to see a team trade LeBron. But I mean, what do you think they should sign him on? Do you think they should sign for more years, trade him? And what should they do with LeBron? And what does LeBron bring to the table for the Lakers?
Number one, if I'm the Lakers, I don't think it's a matter of what do the Lakers do. I think it's a matter of what does LeBron do. I don't think the Lakers have near the leverage that he does. Because I think not. I mean, you can look at what he's going to bring to the team and what, because obviously they are Lee GM, Lee owner, Lee this, whatever. What is he going to bring to the team is a big thing. But it's what does he bring to the city of LA? Because they are much more relevant with him than they would be without him. People are going to Lakers games. You've seen Stafford and Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, all these guys, celebrities there left. I'm not saying the Lakers games have always been huge, but people are going there to watch him. They're getting televised games because of LeBron, not because they're good. He's bringing much more to that franchise than just the championship he brought or like the hopes of winning a championship. So if I'm the Lakers, yeah, I'm hoping to keep him,
but
and
question,
not have to trade him. But I don't think they do.
Isn't winning a championship all that should matter to a franchise? Not you bringing these celebrities for these games.
No,
and,
yeah, no. 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know he brings in probably a lot of money for Lakers just because LeBron is there. But if he's not winning championships for you, and I don't think you can't put all the load on LeBron to win a championship unless you bring some other people. So I mean, if they're not going to bring in other people, they're just going to bring Russ and all these other people. I mean, don't you think they should do something with him or just kind of depart with him? Like Jacob said, trade everybody, start over.
Okay, so number one, when you have LeBron, you have a chance. Granted, the supporting cast around him is good. Not only that, LeBron has this expectation, and I'm positive the Lakers do too. Winning championships is the most important thing. I think having LeBron on that team gives you that chance. Because like we said earlier, I don't even know if we were live when we were talking about it, he is a top player. I think he's the best player on the planet right now. He's a top 3 player on the planet.
Right now.
There's no debating that. Right now.
Hard disagree,
Right now.
but okay.
So, I don't know. I don't think that
On your best player, I
money-
might give him top 3, maybe.
I don't think right now, I don't think their focus is or should be on how popular they are. They're always going to be. They're the Lakers. Same with the Celtics and the Knicks. They're ginormous franchises. But LeBron brings that star power to LA, and he brings the chance of winning a championship. I think it's very hard to look at a scenario where he gets moved. I'll be honest, I don't think he re-signs after next year.
Here's my thing, Weston.
Sorry.
I haven't said this to Jacob either yet, but the Lakers are such a hot commodity and like this and that. You have a lot of young stars out there. If they trade all these players, get picks, get other players, don't you think hot players like maybe Luka, Trae Young, like don't
Donovan
you think
Mitchell,
some of those
he doesn't
players,
want to play for the Jazz anymore.
Donovan Mitchell, like don't you think that if they're such a hot commodity, everyone wants to play for them? Don't you think it might be a good idea to trade all these players? I'm not even talking about AD and Russ right now, but trade or even just say, LeBron, we're parting ways with you. Or maybe LeBron sticks around, they trade everybody else, and they wait for Donovan Mitchell and those type of players to come. But if they're such a hot commodity, don't you think they would maybe want to move on and get – because players for years have wanted to go play for the Lakers. I mean, old commissioner shut down freaking Kobe, Dwight Howard, and
CP3.
Yeah, Chris Paul adding together. Everyone wants to go play there. They do. They're never going to be bad. LeBron leaves. They might have a couple of down years, but then players are going to want to go play for the Lakers because it's LA. They have a franchise. They have a history there. So I feel like the Lakers should be worried. They're not winning right now. They're not, and I don't see them winning next year unless they make moves. And I feel like making moves might include not LeBron.
I agree. I mean, like I said earlier, LA is always going to be relevant. They're always going to have the ability to bring in big players because it is, in my mind, the city to be playing in the NBA. And that ties right back to what we were talking about, like the rebuilding stuff. Do you move? I just don't think you move I don't think you move LeBron. But you look at moving AD. It's what can we get in return? Can you go out and get a Donovan Mitchell? Can you go out and get a Luka? Like those types of players. That's what I think you look at. I just don't see a world where, and honestly, if I'm another team, unless I'm a poverty franchise like the Pistons or the Pelicans,
The Kings.
unless I'm one of those teams, I don't want to take on LeBron because you don't know how many years you're going to get of him. You don't know if it's going to work out. I mean, I'm not saying that's a knock on him, but I mean, you don't know where he's at in his career. And honestly, I don't know that he exactly knows either. So I think you have to move on from, if you're going to move on and completely shut it down and rebuild completely, I think you move AD, you move Russ, you move some of those other pieces like we talked about, the Carmelos and Dwight Howards, the older guys. I think that's the route you go because you're right. People want to play in LA, and if they have anything in their favor, it's that. It's not like we're talking about the Timberwolves. Nobody wants to move to Minnesota and play in Target Center. Nobody wants that. I mean, it's the damn Staples Center. It's LA. It's
You mean Crypto.com now?
Yeah.
It's Staples
That
Center.
was so stupid.
Take that to the
It's
grave.
the dumbest thing
Yeah.
ever. I'll always
Yeah,
call it
no,
the Staples Center too. Don't get me wrong, but I just had to.
That was also a very stupid thing to do. And obviously it was a money grab and whatever, but that's the Staples Center, and I will
Damn
never
capitalism.
call it the other word.
Swigs, I agree with you. I was just playing devil's advocate. I agree with you. I think LeBron needs to stay for them. I just think they need to get rid of everybody else. Clean house. Come in next season with some young stars, some people that got some potential. Like I said, they're not going to have a problem bringing people there.
Like another thing, I guess that I didn't really touch on. They brought AD on to be that guy. Like LeBron has been waiting to take the back seat, to average his 20 points a game and ride off in the sunset with having another guy on the floor. We have not seen that yet. AD has just been constantly to the bench and back out to the court, just constantly.
Well, that bubble season, you could say, probably happened.
I'm pretty sure we did talk about this for a little bit.
I mean, but it's not like LeBron was. I mean, that was 2 years ago. So LeBron was still near the top of his game and was doing what he was doing. But that's what I was getting at. They brought AD on to be that guy and to take that back seat. So I mean, I think if you keep LeBron and you find another guy to take over and let LeBron just do his thing, that's what you need to be doing here. And I don't think AD is that, because he just has proven he cannot stay healthy.
Yeah, no, Jacob, I don't know if I disagree or not disagree. I don't know what your opinion is or not. I feel like Weston has completely told everybody about why the Lakers are so bad and what they need to do. I haven't watched them as much as you. I think it was a good opinion for us to have on the show.
Oh, I could go on for hours, boys.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
we
know,
haven't even dived into what they do on the court. That's the big thing. When I'm watching those games, I'm like, Jesus. I mean, I've seen high school teams that play better basketball than Lakers do.
Or you don't even say play better, just say play harder, because they're pretty lazy ass team.
Oh yeah, effort.
Isn't that just the NBA though?
Well, it is,
that's
but
true.
Jacob, watched the Lakers, though. I've watched them 3 times now since Weston came here, and yeah, they're just lazy.
I mean, another thing that we'll go off on one more little side thing on these bums while we're on the topic, but I don't think people are putting the spotlight on Vogel. I don't think like he's the issue, but he does some things that really irritates me. His like clock management and timeout management is one thing that irritates me. He calls very stupid timeouts, burns timeouts, doesn't end runs or tries to prevent runs with timeouts. Like he'll use them when the run's over, and that's one thing that I hate. It's like when a team goes on a quick little 4-0 run, a 6-2 run, you call the timeout and you try to end the run. You bring them in, you slow it down. He'll let the damn run happen and they're down 15, and then it's calling a timeout, and now we're buried. It's stuff like that. His rotations, and I don't think his rotations have been good. It irritates me. Like granted, they don't have a great personnel group. It's like why are lineups like Russ, THT, Dwight Howard, Austin Reeves, and Avery Bradley on the floor? Where's your shooting besides Austin Reeves? Like, where's your defense? It's stuff like that. Like, he has very questionable lineups. Granted, they don't have a great personnel group, and they don't have every area covered from top to bottom. But it's stuff like that. Like, whenever I watch, I get so irritated with Vogel. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, it pisses me off.
Yeah, we can bring it back in another day, and you can talk about X's and O's.
Well, once the Lakers get eliminated from the playoffs, we can bring it back in on here.
Well, they're not going to make the playoffs, so the Spurs are going to catch them, but
or when they win the championship. Either way.
Oh yeah, well you can prove us wrong at that point, but
If they win the championship, I'm coming on here. I'll have a bottle of Jack. I'll be screaming. I could put $100 bet right now that would pay out like 8,000.
I'll give you those odds, and I'll take your $100.
yeah. Yeah.
I know, at that point, I might as well just pay you guys.
Yeah, honestly, Jacob, they're both there with you. But, well, I'd say about enough with the Lakers. I mean, we've talked about them. I mean, they're, like I said, like, they're a hot team. Everyone knows Lakers are. We talk about them a lot on this show. But hopefully that's the end of it. I'm assuming a couple of weeks we'll have to bring them up again for some goddamn reason.
Yeah.
But we're going to move on to March Madness. And the
Real
madness
basketball, as I say.
I agree with you. Jacob, the madness continue this weekend. St. Peter's keeps
Peacocking, baby.
kept winning. Jacob, do you know who supported the St. Peter's Peacocks about 4 years ago before anybody did?
Don't tell me it was you.
You don't know. Jake Gilbert.
Are you kidding me?
Jakey G has a St. Peter's Peacock sweatshirt he bought 4 years ago because he thought it was like the coolest mascot ever that a college team had. So he bought their sweatshirt. I swear to God, about 4 years ago. No crap. Like, it's crazy.
It is a sick mascot.
It is very
The
cool.
colors are sick. I'm not gonna
After
lie.
they kept winning, I was like, man, Jakey G, I don't know if he still has it. I was like, he has a sweatshirt of this goddamn team. But the madness continued. We had the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, which we end up with a Duke-UNC Final Four matchup, which is a matchup of that has never happened, and a Villanova-Kansas. We have 4 Blue Bloods in the Final Four. We had some pretty good games throughout the Sweet 16. Gonzaga loses. Jacob, sorry. Michigan end up losing to Villanova. Didn't shoot well that game.
No, they didn't.
Houston upsets Arizona. Duke plays a close game with Texas Tech. And then our sweet, like I said, we had Kansas win. St. Peter's beats Purdue again. UNC wins a close game with UCLA. We had a lot of close games. Miami dominating the first half of Kansas and then just getting absolutely just stomped the second half. Jacob, what's your takeaway from this last weekend for the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8? A lot of good games. And what do you think of the matchups? We've had a crazy March Madness season just for 4 Blue Bloods to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, like you just said, and probably the top, at least top 2 or 3 craziest tournament of my lifetime, and we get Villanova, Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina in the Final Four, which, North Carolina's an 8 seed, but they're North Carolina. No one's going to be shocked when they make a deep run. So, a relatively predictable end here, like I said, outside of that 8 seed, which is still an anomaly. But like I said, we have 4 Blue Bloods. Villanova's won 2 in the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years. They won their first title 6 years ago. Kansas, who hasn't won one in a while, but they're always relevant. Duke, who is Duke? We were talking about all that before the podcast, And I fear, just like Big Cat over at PMT, that Duke is going to win this. I really do think North Carolina has looked like the best team in the tournament so far. They beat Marquette by 32, who's not a bad team. They were beating Baylor by 25 until Manek got ejected. They were never, it was close, but they were never really in trouble against UCLA. And they beat St. Peter's, who beat two top 10 teams and handled Murray State easily. So, they just kind of feel like the best team so far, but just like how I said with St. Peter's, eventually you're not going to play well enough when you're not as talented as the rest of the field, and that's just kind of what I feel like North Carolina is going to run into here. I don't hope they lose, obviously, because I don't like Duke. But I just kind of think Duke's going to win it all. Kansas, you can always count on Kansas to choke it. I think they'll lose. I think we'll get Villanova Duke, and I think Duke probably wins that game. Because I think Duke is probably the most talented team left.
Yeah, well, you know what? I told you this last week. I'm going to roll with UNC the whole time. And they're a hot team. I told you this last week. They can score. They can score the basketball. But it depends on how they defend. I think this Duke game, I'm not going to lie. You know what? Actually, I'm going to be
back home. I'm gonna be casino sweet. I might throw $100 on UNC.
Probably
I
could get
think
futures on that.
I think UNC is going to win. And honestly, the only team for UNC I'm afraid of right now is Kansas, just because they're a very hot team. They got one of the best players in the country right now, and that'd be the only team I'd be kind of worried about. I'd bet on them to win the Final Four, but it's crazy to see those two teams go against each other. And man, I mean, your tweet said it all, Jacob. What if God loved us all? We'd have had a St. Peter's, Miami, Florida national championship. That would have been.
I guess
awesome
Jesus.
to see.
I guess Jesus doesn't love me, but
I mean, we said this last week about the college basketball, and I think a lot we never know who's going. I mean, we had a Blue Bloods Final Four, but it was kind of a crazy March Madness. But we have one seed into the Final Four, and I'm not gonna lie, that's probably the one seed I would have had losing going to the Final Four.
I didn't even have them making it out of the Sweet 16 because I had Iowa going all the way out of that region.
So I mean, it's just crazy to think about. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm excited for this weekend. Gonzaga, who I thought I heard someone talk about, I don't know who it was, that said that you change out God, who's the 7-foot guy? Well, I can't think of his name right now.
Chet Holmgren?
Yeah, Chet Holmgren. You take out Chet Holmgren and put Suggs back on that team. Everyone says they think they went. Did you see those fouls that Chet Holmgren got called?
His fifth foul was bad. I didn't watch that game until the last about 3 minutes, and that fifth foul was bad.
I think 3 of his 5 fouls were bad. A lot of them were just straight up, and people initiating contact with him. Like, what are you gonna do about that? It's not like he came down on them. I don't know. I think Gonzaga. I saw you liked a tweet or something, or maybe you shared it with me that just said or maybe it was Alex, or I can't remember that. Quality of shots. It said Gonzaga wins.
They had a 90% chance to win that game based on the shots they took. They just missed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Gonzaga is a little overrated. I don't think they're as good as they thought, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to UNC. I told you last week, I'm rolling with UNC every single game. I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to beat Duke. I think they're going to be playing national championship. I think it's going to be UNC, Kansas, and see roll from there. Honestly, Jacob, next week, I know you said bring Tupa, but man, I swear if it's UNC Kansas, we might have to bring on my boy Dalton Prouty, who's a Kansas fan. I've been crapping on him this whole tournament about how Kansas is going to keep losing, they keep winning, and it's kind of pissing me off. But Weston, I'll take it to you. I mean, what do you think about? I mean, my man here won some money about taking St. Peter's over Purdue the other day. Won about $500 and
$600 actually.
600. Well,
that was a good bet. I'd have done the same.
$100 on plus 600. You probably got paid 600 or whatever.
No, I don't know how it worked. I put in a $100 bet on them, and then I put in a $100 bet on UNC, and I got paid today $725. So I don't understand. I got I don't know if this bookie's weird or what.
No. So what you got is, I guarantee you got 600 off of
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's, and I'm sure UNC was only a plus 110 or something or whatever.
125.
Whatever. So that's where you got your 700 whatever. So
I guess number one, I'm gonna flex this. My championship game on my bracket was Duke and Kansas, so I have 2 in my top 4 and my final 4, and I did have Duke winning. So hopefully that
flex that all over us. Jacob and I our brackets have been sucked. You can throw that in
I don't even know who was in my others. I think it was Arizona was in there. I can't remember the other team. So I think obviously I'm not the biggest watcher of college basketball. I watch March Madness, but I don't watch throughout the season too often. I feel like I never have the time. But it's been fun watching. I don't know what this year I've watched the most I ever have, and I don't know why. I have no idea. But the St. Peter's run has just been so fun to watch. I saw so many people shitting on them throughout the weekend or the last couple of days, just hoping they'd lose or whatever. I've obviously seen way more people supporting them, but I've seen so many people finally their run is over. But it's why? Because we never see this type of stuff, and we may never see something like it again. I'm sure. Hopefully one day we see a 16 seed make a run. That'd be sick. But their run was so special. Watching them, they just play as such a collective group. Defensively, they're great. They do a great job of setting the tone, which I don't think UNC was not having that yesterday. They did not let them get going defensively, which sucked for me because I had a nice bet going on St. Peter's again. But they did not let them do what they did the whole tournament, set the tone defensively, create turnovers, and move the ball on offense. So, I mean, they had none of that going for them. But one thing that I was very impressed with was like how they won the mental battle more times than they didn't. And like, I mean, like, they didn't let like the hype catch up really until yesterday, which honestly you would think as a 15 seed, like with the way that things had worked out, like I thought I could have saw that happen against Purdue. Like it just seemed like mentally they played very well. Like they were locked in. They didn't let everything that was going on around them catch up to them. So I was impressed with that. But obviously going up against UNC, that was just a different gauntlet. That was a different beast, and it just probably was never going to happen. If they play that game 100 times, St. Peter's might win it 2 times. Maybe. But
No, and you St. Peter's. I mean, Jacob and I talked about the best Cinderella runs of all time. This is one of them. But Jacob, we talked about this when I was on the phone with you on my way back to Drayton here. I mean, you can discuss your thoughts at St. Peter's about, you know, when you catch you're on fire. You're on fire when you play a team like Kentucky. They have a bad game. Those are the games you win. I mean, you can go on. I know you love St. Peter's runs, but I'd like to just hear you talk about, you know, your opinion about how St. Peter's had the success throughout this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, like Weston said, they're one of the teams where it was actually an advantage for them to be smaller because they just played really fast and they just really if you watch them on offense, they just run around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it kind of works. But like you said, I mean, for these upsets to happen, 2 things have to happen.
Well, wait a second. Do you mean peacocks with their head cut
off? Yes, like peacocks with their heads cut off. That's exactly how the offense runs. But yeah.
To kind of dive on that real quick, Jacob. I don't remember who said it. I think it was one of the announcers. Said something like they don't have like a guy like on offense that just takes over, and I think that hurt them yesterday because UNC was playing so well defensively that they just could not, like that movement that we had saw in the past couple of games just was not happening effectively. And I feel like that's where it hurts them to not have a guy that says, give me the ball and I'm going to go get you a bucket. But that was just
side. I mean that's also kind of where there are 2 ways I have found over time for these upsets to happen. One is you need a guy who can get 30 a night for 4 straight games in the tournament, or you need to have 6 guys who can score 10. Like, there's no in between. You need to have a lot of guys who can put the ball on the rim, or you got to have one guy who's just an absolute stud. Like Steph Curry. You know, you got Ja Morant that one. They only won 1 game, but I mean, like you need a star, or you need to be really, really good as a collective. Or, you know, like Max Abesmith last year, Oral Roberts, he was by far the best player on that team. They said this year, like Weston said, there wasn't really. I mean, like I said, you had Dougie Dirt, right? And one of their forwards is pretty good too. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Nadefo?
Yeah, that's the name. I mean, definitely their 2 best players, but I said they weren't lighting it up for 30, 35 and in their 4-game run there. So I mean, and they caught Kentucky on a bad night. Like I was saying, in order for these upsets to happen, not only does St. Peter's have to play well, the teams they play also have to play poorly. I'd have to look it up, but I think Kentucky was like 15 for 26 from the free throw line in that first round. I mean, if Kentucky just makes free throws, they win that game. I do think they outplayed Murray State. Like I said, I mean, Purdue, I mean, Edey played just horrendously. I mean, Ivy completely disappeared. And part of that is them playing that way. But like I said, that's what runs like this are so special. You know, everything kind of has to go right for them. And eventually the clock strikes midnight when you can only play that well for so long when every team you play is significantly more talented than you are. You just can't expect to win 4 straight games in that environment. So, I mean, I think it was about time, but I loved it. I really did want them to beat North Carolina, honestly. I think it would have been awesome to see them make the Final Four.
Screw you.
And then have Mike Krzyzewski's last game be losing to a 15 seed again. But I'm also very excited for Duke to play North Carolina. But, you know, while we're talking about brackets, for anyone out there who thought they had a bad bracket this year, I bet mine was worse. I just want to walk everyone through how just horrendously bad my bracket is. I'm in the, let's see here, what's my percentile? I'm in the 8th percentile on Tournament Challenge. I missed every Elite 8 team, all of them. I had two of my Final Four teams lose on the first day. I had Kentucky and Iowa in the Final Four. They both lost on the first day, and I think I only got 7 out of 16 Sweet 16 games right. I missed literally everything. I think I only picked 1 or 2 upsets right. I had South Dakota State winning in the first round, and they lost. I picked Michigan correct, but I didn't have them going any further, which I clearly messed up on. I had like Virginia Tech going to the Sweet 16, and they lost in the first round. I mean, it was just, everything I picked. I originally had UConn winning, and I originally had UConn losing and Arkansas winning, and I flip-flopped those and got both those picks wrong in the first round. Everything just completely fell apart for me this year. I mean, everything. I said I got everything wrong. This is even worse than the year when I picked Virginia to win it all, and they lost to a 16 seed by 30 in the first round. It's just in between. I mean, I put together some good brackets in between. Like I said, I won $500 in my brother's pool a couple of years ago because I was the only one who had Virginia winning, and I picked Michigan State to make it out of that region for the Final Four that year over Duke. My freshman year, I picked the North Carolina Gonzaga championship game right, and I picked Gonzaga instead of going Homer and taking North Carolina. So I normally do decent, and I almost won the pools I was in that year. Virginia lost in the first round because the rest of my bracket was really good, but this year has just been abnormally, horrendously, just awful for me. Because I missed every single Elite Eight team, which clearly means I missed, the Final Four and all of them as well. And it said I got less than half. And if anyone remembers, Jared, our predictions last week, I only picked 2 of the Sweet 16 games correctly. And that was St. Peter's and what other one? I think it was St. Peter's, and I picked Kansas to beat Providence. So I went 2 for 8 on my Sweet 16 picks last week. So this has not been a friendly tournament to me for anyone who feels bad about your brackets.
It's a good thing you were in Grand Forks and not Vegas, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I can't imagine my weekend in Vegas. My one weekend there was pretty awful. So.
I would have lost so much money if I was in Vegas.
I had a nice little weekend. I ain't gonna lie. I got paid today. It was nice. I was stoked.
So I'm gonna. I guess to end this show, I just want to ask you guys Weston, I'll ask you first. Who wins these 2 games in the Final Four in your opinion, and who wins the championship?
So with Duke UNC, I think UNC's caught like a very good groove, and they have hit stride, and they've been like pretty fun to watch. Like especially like I was watching that Baylor game. I remember I was snapping you during it. And it was like, holy shit, like they've come alive. So I think UNC's played really good, and trying to take bias out of it, I do think Duke wins that game, and I think Duke right now is the best team. Like I think Jacob said it earlier, I think they're the most talented team. Banchero's been extremely he's been great, and it seems like they've had so many other guys step up and have moments. Like Roach the other game had some nice moments. What's his nuts? I'm drawing a huge blank. Well, regardless, it seems like they have 4 or 5 guys at all time that can step up and make a big play. I'm picking Duke. That's who I picked in my bracket. I think they win it. I think it's going to be a grudge match. At least I hope so. Like everyone knows, first time this has ever happened. It's going to be exciting. I think what better way to end Coach K's career is this type of matchup. So I'm going Duke. And after watching the absolute beating that Kansas put on Miami in that second half, I definitely think Kansas beats Nova. That was insane to come out. I think they're down 6 at half, and they came out and just set the tone right away. It did not give them any breathing room. Pounded them for 20 minutes. It was not close. It was exciting to see. I think we're going to get Duke, Kansas, and I think Duke wins it all. I think destiny will not fail, and Coach K ends on another championship, 6 to end his career.
Jacob, move on. I don't want to hear the same thing from you. You tell me what you think.
Here's what I think. I kind of alluded earlier that I think Duke's going to win it all, but I'm no, hold up. I not think it scares me that they will, and it looks like they kind of will, but I don't think the clock has struck midnight on North Carolina quite yet. I'm going to take North Carolina to win that game just because I said earlier they have looked in my opinion, like the best team in the tournament thus far. Take seeding out of I don't want to hear that they're an 8 seed. They have looked like the best team in the tournament so far. I said they're up over 20 on Baylor, who is, I mean, they're a 1 seed and they deserve that 1 seed. They're really good. They're a really good basketball team. Said they were never really in trouble against UCLA. Said and discount that win against St. Peter's all you want. But like I said, St. Peter's beat 2 top 10 teams and beat a team that had won like 25 straight games. That they were no slouch. So I'm going to take them to beat Duke. I think Duke has played well. I think Duke is due for a bad game. And like I said, North Carolina is hot. They got plenty of guys. Manic can fill it up. Love can fill it up. Baycott is great. He rebounds, all sorts of fun stuff. He can put the ball in the hoop. They have guys that can score, like Jared said. And I think Duke's kind of due for a game here where they play a little poorly. So I'm going to take North Carolina. I'm going to put Villanova in. They're kind of the opposite. I don't really think they've played all that well yet. And Villanova is a team who shoots the ball really well. So I think they're kind of due for a couple of games here where they're going to get hot and make some shots. So I'm going to take Villanova to win it all over North Carolina.
Oh my God. You too. So here's my thing. Like I told you, I'm rolling with North Carolina. I'm not going to keep it as long and give explanations. I'm going to have North Carolina versus Kansas in the championship. North Carolina wins. They've been a hot team. The only thing that will get UNC in trouble is that they play their 5 guys, and they play their 5 guys for most of the game. Against St. Peter's even, their 5 starters all played over 30 minutes, and the least amount of a player played was 33. 33 minutes was the least that their starting 5 played. That's the thing that's going to hurt them, is that if they get into foul trouble, they will. It's going to be a struggle for them, but I'm going with 100%. UNC wins it all. I just think offensively, their starting 5 are collectively so good together. They got Baycott, who's a dude, Love, Manic, who's just, oh my gosh. He's a freaking lumberjack that can shoot the ball and do about anything.
I love Manic.
And RJ Davis has games too. Like, I believe that there's been a lot of years where I've been confident in UNC. I've been confident as an 8 seed, Jacob. You can quote me on this. Like, since the very start of this March Madness, I've been high on UNC the whole time. I'm not one to just be cocky about my team. If my team sucks, I'm usually down on them. But I've been confident in UNC, especially after watching them beat Duke with Weston at my place here. They have a lot of dudes, and a lot of them can shoot and score. It just depends how they play defensively. Now, I have UNC versus Kansas, UNC winning it. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go to casino this weekend after I cash my money that I won during Christmas time.
It reminds me of before the podcast, your whole spiel on Duke and Coach K. It's just nonsense.
Yeah. Nonsense. Yeah. Well, when I cash my winning ticket for UNC Kansas and UNC winning, you'll be wishing you made that bet too.
I actually think Villanova is a really good value bet here because their odds are like plus 450. And which aren't much. Like North Carolina's are like plus 500. So like you're getting similar odds on taking a 2 seed, who, like I said, I think is bound to get hot. Like I said, if you're gonna put $100 down and walk away with $500 on betting on a 2 seed to win it all, I think that's a good bet.
Yeah, fair enough. I think you both are wrong. UNC is the one to go.
You can always put it down if they win. You hedge it, especially North Carolina wins. That'd be a nice hedge.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's beside the point. Let's wrap it up, boys.
I was gonna say, I think that ends our show. We've been talking for a long time here.
A little over an hour today.
Weston, thank you for joining us to be able to talk about the Lakers for a lot of it. Talk about some basketball. Jacob, I feel like we won't have a lot to talk about this week, so we'll probably come back next week, I'd assume.
Probably, unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening on our 2 main topics that we talked about today. Weston, once again, thank you for coming on. We enjoyed having you.
Hey, I appreciate it. I can't say I've listened a whole lot. I listened to your first couple. I'm so damn busy that I don't feel like I ever have time to sit down and do stuff that I want to do. But I've caught your podcast. I enjoy it. I enjoy sports podcasts. So It's an honor to be on, and I'm hoping in a couple weeks, months, whatever it may be, I'll be on again, and then I'll be
the
talking
Lakers
about
missing
how.
the playoffs. Yep, I look
No,
forward.
no, no. I'll be talking about number one, how Duke beat Kansas in the championship, and then how the Lakers became the first ever play-in team to win the chip. So
Oh yeah, well that's wishful
it's
thinking.
really nice being right.
Well,
Yeah, I wanna- I wanna-
you
I
can
wanna
wish
hit-
in one hand and do you know what in the other, and we'll see which one fills up first.
Yeah, I want to hit the lottery too, Weston. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, you never know.
I'll say thank you guys for listening. We'll probably catch you next week.